just to the world, but to yourself. Not in theory, not someday, but right now, starting exactly where you are, with the pain, the doubt, the silence no one sees. Because the truth is, you don't need a new year, a new job, or a new relationship to start over. You just need one thing, a moment of radical honesty. One moment where you stop performing the life you've outgrown and begin building the one you were meant to live. There's something deeply stoic about this kind of transformation, quiet, grounded, unshakable. It's not about the noise or the flash. It's about discipline, clarity, and identity. In the next few minutes, we'll break down exactly how to rebrand yourself from the inside out, how to build micro-habits that rewire your mind, and how to glow up in a way that transforms not just how others see you, but how you see yourself, permanently. So if you've ever felt trapped inside the shell of who you used to be, if you've been waiting for a sign to begin again, this is it. And if you're ready to take that step, to trade comfort for clarity, distraction for discipline, and noise for meaning, then please subscribe and join the journey of becoming someone you're proud to meet. Most people wait for a spark, a lightning bolt of motivation to strike before they make a change, but that's not how it works. Transformation doesn't begin with inspiration. It begins with confrontation. A quiet, uncomfortable moment when you stop lying to yourself and look at your life in the face without flinching. Not just the parts you're proud of, not just the highlights you show to others, but the corners you avoid, the ones that ache when the distractions fade. The truth is, we all carry stories about who we are, and often they're outdated, inherited, safe. But those stories become the walls that trap us in the version of ourselves we've long since outgrown. You don't fix a life by decorating it. You fix it by auditing it. And that requires a level of honesty most people aren't ready for. But you are. That's why you're here. So start with this. What are you pretending not to see? What are you tolerating simply because it's familiar? The way your energy sinks around certain people. The way you talk about your goals more than you act on them. The quiet dread on Sunday nights that you cover up with Netflix or scrolling or busy work. These aren't small details. They are signals, warnings from within. And ignoring them doesn't make them go away. It just delays the crash. You don't need more time. You need truth. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. It's the truth I'm after." That's the mindset you need. Not defensiveness, not self-justification, but an unshakable hunger for what is real. Because only from truth can change be born. Most people will tell you to start with your vision, to dream big, write goals, create mood boards. But what good is a vision built on denial? If your foundation is fragile, it doesn't matter how beautiful the future looks on paper, it will collapse. So instead, start with an audit. 3 simple columns. What's working, what's not, and what has to change, not in theory, but in practice, starting now. Don't overthink it. Don't dress it up. Just name it. Name the habits that leave you empty, the choices that lead nowhere, the patterns that feel like comfort but breed regret. You can't change what you won't confront, and you can't confront what you refuse to name. You're not here to beat yourself up. You're here to stop avoiding the obvious. Growth doesn't mean tearing yourself apart. It means telling yourself the truth and finally acting on it. There's power in that, dignity, because once you stop defending the past, you start designing the future. And the future needs you clear, not perfect, just real. The habits you've outgrown are not evidence of failure. They are proof you're evolving. The friendships that drain you, not bad people, just old mirrors reflecting a version of you that no longer fits. The dreams that used to light you up but now feel empty. That's not confusion. That's clarity breaking through the noise. Think about how much energy it takes to pretend, to maintain a life that looks okay on the outside, but quietly aches on the inside. That energy could build something real, something solid, but only if you're willing to reallocate it, to stop managing impressions and start managing yourself. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's why this process matters, because every excuse you make is a rehearsal for staying the same, and every uncomfortable truth you admit is a doorway to who you could be if you stopped getting in your own way. This isn't a one-time exercise. It's a lifestyle, a practice of returning to what's true, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when it costs comfort. But that's where real strength is built, not in ease, but in exposure. You'll know you're doing it right when it stings a little, when you feel like you've just stepped outside without armor, vulnerable, raw, uncertain. That's not weakness, that's honesty, and it's rare. It means you're no longer hiding behind half-truths or habits that numb. It means you're ready. This first step, this audit, it's the gateway. Everything that comes next will be built on this foundation. So take it seriously. Do it slowly. Sit in the discomfort if you have to. Let it hurt a little. That pain is not punishment. It's data. It's guidance. It's the beginning of a new contract with yourself, one based on clarity instead of comfort. You don't need more motivation. You need less avoidance, less noise, less pretending. Because the moment you finally stop running from what you already know, that's when everything begins to shift. That's when the rebrand starts, not in public, but in private. Not when people applaud, but when you can finally face the mirror and say, "I'm ready." Not to perform, not to impress, but to become. And that is where transformation truly begins. Most people try to change their lives from the inside out, but often the outside is where the real work begins. Look around you. Really look. Your environment is a mirror of your mental state. The stacks of papers you haven't dealt with, the clothes you no longer wear but refuse to let go of, the unopened books that once symbolized hope but now gather dust. They're not just clutter, they're reminders of decisions you haven't made, of versions of you that no longer exist but you're still holding on to. It's not about minimalism for the sake of aesthetics. It's about removing the noise so you can finally hear yourself think. Because the more you tolerate disorder in your space, the more you normalize it in your identity. And slowly, without realizing it, you start becoming someone who lives surrounded by the past when you're trying to build a future. Every item in your space either serves you or slows you down. And the truth is, most of what surrounds us today was brought in by an older version of ourselves, a version with different priorities, different pain, and different blind spots. You might not see it right away, but every object you hang on to out of guilt, every unnecessary tab left open, every drawer full of forgotten things, they all send a quiet message to your mind. We're not ready to move forward yet. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And that's the trick of clutter. It tricks your brain into believing that you're overwhelmed, when in truth, you're just avoiding decisions. A closet full of clothes you never wear feels like possibility, but it's really avoidance. A kitchen filled with food you don't actually eat feels like comfort, but it's distraction. That pile of books you never touch, it's not wisdom, it's guilt wrapped in dust. This isn't about becoming a monk. It's about sending a signal to your subconscious that the person you were, the one who bought all these things to feel better, to feel seen, to feel safe, is no longer in charge. That person was doing the best they could with what they had, but they are not who you are becoming. The purge isn't punishment, It's release. It's the act of honoring your past self while clearing the runway for who you're meant to be next. When you start letting go of physical items that no longer align, something strange happens. Your thoughts get quieter, your choices get clearer, and your days start to breathe. You don't need more to become more. You need less. Less of what numbs you, less of what delays you, less of what reinforces the version of you you're working so hard to outgrow. And that doesn't mean stripping everything away. It means being intentional. It means asking, does this item move me forward, or does it tie me to who I used to be? Most people never ask that question. They just carry everything forward, not because it serves them, but because it's familiar. But the familiar can become a trap when you forget it was meant to be temporary. Clean out your kitchen, not just to make space, but to start choosing fuel over comfort. Empty your inbox, not just for productivity, but to stop letting unread messages whisper, "You're falling behind." Cancel that one subscription you keep meaning to, not just to save money, but to stop feeding the cycle of mindless consumption. These may seem like small acts, but they carry weight. They build momentum. They tell your nervous system, we're not stuck anymore, we're moving, slowly, deliberately, forward. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." But sometimes the path to facing yourself starts by cleaning your desk. It's symbolic, because when you take control of your environment, you take the first step in reclaiming your agency. This is why the Stoics emphasized simplicity. Not because they believed in suffering, but because they believed in clarity. A clear space gives rise to a clear mind, and a clear mind can endure, decide, and create. You don't have to do it all at once. Don't aim for perfection, aim for alignment. Start with one drawer, one shelf, 1 hour. As you clear the space, something begins to shift in your psychology. You start to realize you don't need the external noise to feel full. You just need presence. And presence is what emerges when the unnecessary is removed. Not because you forced yourself to go without, but because you chose to make room for what truly matters. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about removing the layers that hide who you already are. And that process of physically letting go becomes the ritual that marks the beginning of the internal transformation. The environment around you is the stage your future self will perform on. Prepare it, make it ready, make it worthy, not for appearance but for integrity. When you walk into your space and it reflects where you're going, not where you've been, your identity starts to catch up. You start making decisions differently. You stand a little taller. You stop second-guessing whether you're changing too much, too fast, because suddenly you feel it, you see it, you live inside it. Rebranding yourself doesn't start with big declarations. It starts here, with the quiet act of cleaning, clearing, and choosing again. You are signaling to your mind that we are no longer surviving in the ruins of old identities. We are building something new, and for that there must be space, there must be order, there must be discipline, not to restrict you, but to liberate you, because clarity is the soil where confidence grows. And the first place to plant that clarity is right in front of you. Most people think changing their body is about how they look. But real transformation starts when you use your body to prove something much deeper, that you can decide and follow through. Not once, not when it's easy, not when someone is watching, but every day, quietly, especially when you don't need a six-pack. You need evidence. Evidence that your word means something to you. That when you say, "I will," it doesn't fade with your mood. It holds, it lasts. Because it's not about the mirror, it's about momentum. And the fastest way to regain momentum when your life feels stuck is to rebuild your body as an instrument of will. The body doesn't lie, it reveals what you've tolerated. Every ache, every skipped workout, every extra hour of sleep you didn't need, every meal eaten out of boredom rather than hunger, they all tell a story. Not a story of failure, but of disconnection. When your mind and your body drift apart, discipline disappears. And discipline is what holds your identity together. You can say you want to change, but until your physical actions start aligning with that vision, it's just noise. What you do with your body each day is the most honest reflection of who you are becoming. Not who you say you are, but who you are in motion. You don't need to sign up for a fitness plan or start chasing perfection. Start smaller than that. Start with 20 minutes of walking, not for cardio, for presence, for reclaiming the space between your thoughts. Start with drinking more water, not for some trend, but to remind yourself that your body deserves care. Start with sleep, not just because rest matters, but because you can't lead yourself if you're always running on empty. These things sound simple, maybe even too simple, but when done consistently, they form the foundation of self-respect. Because every time you move, hydrate, or rest with intention, you're telling yourself, we show up now. Not someday, now. And once you've shown up for long enough, you build trust with yourself. That's where real confidence is born, not from compliment. Become someone who doesn't flinch when the alarm goes off. Someone who shows up at the gym even when motivation is gone. Someone who doesn't need to be in the mood to take action. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's the blueprint. Say it first, then act on it, even before you believe it. And here's the truth. Your body is not a punishment. It's a partner. It's the tool through which your character becomes visible. When you build strength, you're not just changing your shape, you're reinforcing your standards. Every rep becomes a vote for the person you want to be. Every drop of sweat is a quiet declaration, I'm not done yet. You're not working out to erase who you've been. You're training the vessel that will carry you where you've never been. And that requires respect, not just for aesthetics, but for ability, for endurance, for grit. This isn't about chasing extremes or competing with anyone else. It's about consistency, doing the hard, boring, often unnoticed thing until the results speak louder than your explanations ever could. People won't understand why you're waking up earlier, why you're passing on the easy option, why you're walking in the rain when you could stay in bed. That's fine. They don't need to understand, because this isn't for them. It's for you. Carl Jung once said, "What you do not make conscious will manifest as fate." And that includes the way you treat your body. Neglect becomes fatigue. Fatigue becomes irritation. Irritation becomes self-doubt. It's a chain reaction. But so is the opposite. Care becomes clarity. Clarity becomes confidence. Confidence becomes leadership. When you start using your body with intention, your entire mindset shifts. You stop seeing health as optional and start seeing it as essential. Because the person you're trying to become can't thrive inside a neglected vessel. So no, this isn't about punishment or perfection. It's about presence, about reconnecting your actions with your values, about remembering that the most powerful thing you can do when life feels stuck is to move, physically, deliberately, consistently. Movement breaks stagnation. And as you move, your body starts to feel like home again. Not a project to fix, but a tool to use. A signal to yourself and to the world that you're no longer waiting. You're not hoping. You're not guessing. You're building. You're doing. You're becoming. That's what rebuilding the body really means. It's not about being admired. It's about being reliable, not to others, but to yourself. And the body is where that reliability begins. It's where discipline becomes real, where transformation becomes visible, where the identity you're creating takes its first steps into the world, quietly, powerfully, one action more personal than that. Time is identity. It's who you become, hour by hour, choice by choice. If you want to know who you really are, don't look in the mirror. Look at your calendar. Where you place your minutes is where you place your values. And the harsh truth is, most people spend their days reacting to life rather than creating it. They wake up and check their phone before they even check in with themselves. They spend the morning doing what feels urgent, not what feels meaningful. And over time, without noticing, their days become crowded with low-impact activity, tasks that fill the space but drain the soul. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can rewrite your life by rewriting your schedule. Because your future isn't waiting out there, it's hiding in how you plan the next 24 hours. Start by looking at your calendar, if you even have one. Does it reflect the person you say you want to be, or is it just full of things you said yes to out of guilt, habit, or distraction? Most people leave their schedule to chance. They let others decide what fills their time. But reclaiming your time is the first act of reclaiming your self-respect. It's not about being busy. It's about being deliberate. A life that's overscheduled is not the same as a life that's intentional. You don't need to do more. You need to align more. Because when your schedule reflects your deepest priorities, even your quietest days feel powerful. Planning your time doesn't make you rigid, it makes you free. When you schedule silence, you get your thoughts back. When you schedule movement, you reclaim your strength. When you schedule learning, you begin to sharpen your voice. When you schedule execution, actual, focused action, you begin to build results that speak louder than your words ever could. These aren't just to-do list items. They're declarations, acts of alignment. And when they appear on your calendar in black and white, something shifts in your mind. You start to treat your growth like a responsibility instead of a vague intention. Because what gets scheduled gets lived. Don't fall for the myth that discipline kills spontaneity. It doesn't. It amplifies it. It makes space for the things that actually matter by removing the things that only feel urgent. And you don't need to fill every hour to feel progress. Even 30 focused minutes lived with intention can be more powerful than 3 chaotic hours spent chasing notifications and doing things halfway. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." The same is true here. Don't waste time planning a perfect life. Start living a structured one. Start acting like someone who respects the hours they've been given. Wake up earlier, not to impress anyone or post about it online, but to take back control from the world. That first hour of your day is sacred. It sets the tone for everything that follows. And it belongs to you, not to your inbox, not to the news, not to the demands of others. Use it to move, to reflect, to build. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent. Because how you start your day often decides whether you live from your values or just drift through your habits. That's what sovereignty means. Not being in control of everything, but being in control of yourself, especially when everything else pulls you in different directions. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That one sentence is enough to rethink your whole approach to time. Because if your actions are scattered, so is your identity. But when your schedule begins to reflect clarity, your life follows. The truth is, most people don't need more motivation.